Okay. Hello, everyone. I wanted to record a quick episode. I think, of course, I only have 15 minutes and then I gotta head out. But I thought about speaking about an awareness to modern times and the concept of a sort of collective identity at work. We can say that human beings are treasure revealers. As treasure revealers, pretty much the human effort is to make the unknown known. Now, in our attempts to make the unknown known, we have held on to our knowledge as if our knowledge was a spear we threw at this kind of unknown sky. And as the spear, in some sense, entered the sky, it was a moment where the limited saw the limitless. The unimaginable is all around us. If I was to tell you, imagine all the stars, you can't. If I tell you, imagine other dimensions, you see, you can't. The way we even acknowledge other dimensions is by having a singular dimension to even refer to. As if you don't have a house, you can't give people address. You can't give people like a address to your home. So the suggestion is the importance of exploring the limits of one's intelligence. I find inevitably all practices come down to this core value, the value of the attempt at mastery. Most human beings, unfortunately nowadays, a lot of human beings, they don't consider it. They don't even consider greatness as part of their day. They're just trying to get to the next day, you know? The world has been made difficult. In that difficulty, we are not paying enough attention to what really matters in life. And Mr. Within finds a lot of life is being wasted because a lot of life, I mean, I can't say it's being wasted. I'm saying it's like as if we're not using our minds. Human beings are born with great instruments, yet they're never playing the melodies of these instruments. Simply because the cultural program and the linguistic program have slowed us down. Human beings are creatures that there are developments that occur behind their eyes before developments occur outside their eyes. What that means is we have to advance through a sort of free will conscious control. That is the kind of challenge of the psychological approach to reality. How do we make all this unknown stuff suddenly known? And how do we bring it into a sort of reference of what we have accepted to be real? So you see, reality is something that externally it is given, internally you give it meaning. That means there's a world here, but what the world means, it has to arise from what you mean to yourself. And what Mr. Within is kind of saying is like you are a tiny portion, like who you see in the waking state, who you think you are in the moment. The thoughts of that is a tiny percentage of what you actually are. Every moment of our life is filled with potential. All those people who made genius inventions, they attempted a certain, they brought forth a sort of effort. They found a sort of energy. You see, inspiration, what really inspires you, it also gives you energy. If it doesn't give you energy, it's not inspiring. That means I've never sat down and ran after something unless there was an importance to it, to my reality to some degree. You see, it's kind of like you don't disturb nature from one angle, but from another angle you have to build. So if we were to become aware of our modern times in 2019, Mr. Within just wants to say a few opinions on this. I want to give a sort of point form kind of commentary on this. One thing I find that when we look at our modernity is we have the issue of the artificial entering people's minds. What that means is it's not just that people's behavior can be artificial in society, it's that the story of the world could be artificial. And even we have had people, what was his name, Michael Talbot, he wrote something called The Holographic Universe. I didn't read it, but I saw a YouTube clip. Or even Elon Musk talking about there being 1/100000th of a chance that we're in a simulation. As if video games were perfected to the point that we didn't know if it was a video game or reality. So the implication is that we don't know. Whatever we think we know is outnumbered by the unknown. Eventually, humility is accepted as an ultimate position. Humility in the sense that, okay, you cannot control everything in this life. There is a world which you are given freedom to do whatever you want in. This world occurs behind your eyes. You have freedom, and to be honest, incredible levels of freedom behind your eyes. That means somebody could tell you, like, you know, it's like you could see you don't have orange juice, but in your mind you could already be drinking it. So what I'm saying is the mind has freedom. The mind is not bound by time. That means for the body we say time is linear, but for the mind time cannot be linear. Time has to be non-linear, therefore kind of attention's going to the unknown again. I notice in my talks I give, I would always come to the edge of the unknown, edge of the limits of the conversation. Kind of like a metaphor can only go as far as, you know, the metaphysical can be for, you know. In our modern era, there's idea worship going on. This has to come into immediate control. You got to realize a lot of people are just behaving in accordance to the voice of the environment and to the voice of the environment in their past. At the core of our intelligence, existence, when I use the word existence, existence implies being, B-E-I-N-G, being, okay? Experience implies a doer, an experiencer. There has to be an individual notion. It's very hard to speak about or give language to an experience when there is no movement and there's no noise, but there is still phenomena. Pretty much the person doesn't have just their physical eyes, the whole sum, the collective contents of their whole moment is their mind. Your mind is your moment is your mind. Your moment is awareness primarily. We are creatures of awareness, and we become aware of ourselves through matter and then through thought, but at our core, we are like a glass orb moving along many colored surfaces. colored cloths, as the Yoga Patanjali Sutra suggests. It's a kind of purity of ideological being, of ideological doership. It's the only reason we have language is because there came a natural condition where the inner realities were required to be communicated. Something behind the eyes of this creature wanted to step out, okay? And it stepped out through the form of language and dialogue and various content. Nothing is more valuable than living an honest life. An honest life doesn't mean you are abiding by all ethical paradigms. You know, there isn't one action that's going to be the best action in this world. Every moment, because it's a changing world, requires a changing kind of the reaction of the personality as the moment is different. So we have to realize that we can't be too fixated on the ideological constitution of the cosmos. And if we don't just pay attention to language, what else is there? So this is when the discussion of the philosophical mind enters the realm of the evolution of language. The evolution of language has to do with the internal experience. Like, for example, when you hear words, it's your experiences that color them in. When you read words on a blank piece of paper, for example, when you read something, that's like emptiness. That's ink on a page. Your mind is seeing certain symbols, and those symbols are calling forth in your awareness certain imagery. And if you've experienced the imagery in the past, you recognize the pattern. If you don't recognize the pattern, then in some sense, like, how can I tell you, it's new for you. You can say the modernity identifies itself as modern because it has looked at the ancient. So the concept of modernity stands already having acknowledged where it came from. There was this, I don't know what it was, I think it was in the Emerald Tablets or something. It's like, it's not authenticated, but it's this thing where it's as if somebody was writing like, imagine, I'll just tell you what the idea was. The idea was like, this guy is writing to the future generations, and he's saying, we will live for you, we will die, we will live for you, and you will live for us. Kind of this idea that all the ancestors, all the people who have died, one day can be brought back. Efficiency comes across to the human being as a command. I find that the evolution of the intuition, it's as if what one in the New Age community considers as the spirit guide, for the advanced communicator, there is no guide. It's as if you have to, in some sense, even for the pilot of consciousness, you have to navigate your attention. Your free will's purpose is not to be the purpose of some other free will. Do you see? Your eyes deserve to be free in a world that you're in once, only once, in this form. To be honest, it's all about respecting space. After we have reached a level as a civilization, imagine all human beings, they have reached a level where we have conceptualized, we have articulated enough that we have realized the waste of war. War, in some sense, has become a waste. Evil intentions, sure, they're exciting, but their contribution to the civilization's efficiency is not that much. And what that means is society has to restructure. In order to restructure, the citizen, the average person, in the creature on this rock must recalibrate to what it means to be here. Life can become very important. You know, you can be sitting in a moment and suddenly someone comes and tells you something and you run from your seat, you know. It all has to do with how attention moves. You just watch how your attention moves through the day. Usually it tends to be ideological, kind of external intent driven, but it's going to become something where you become an audience member of your mind. You kind of watch the elegance and brilliance of your moment. So in some sense, rather than being fast in life, you're taking the other approach, where you're kind of slowing things down to actually observe the data, and whatever your attention goes on, your mind endlessly can generate thought upon. So what that means is I'm looking at this candle, right? There's a candle in front of me. I look at this candle and the first thought I get, okay, it's a candle on a table. The second thought I get is that I'm calling it a candle. The third thought that I get is, in some sense, the sun is like the light of a candle. You know, the next thought I get is that the candle was, in some sense, a permission for writers to write at night. You know, it was their technology. As if there was you see, the mind can endlessly bring forth thought upon, but I'm just saying that in some sense, the orchestration of your attention leads to the symphony of your life. You know, how your life unfolds, how your life unravels. You know, it's as if you can choose to be really structured, but when you want to have too much control, you realize you don't have control. This is what the wise understand. That means after every tyrant has attained ultimate power, the wise sage, they have seen how the wise sage has been looking down on them. And the tyrant, the conqueror of the physical realm, looked at the sage and he's like, "Sage, how dare you? How dare you look down upon me? I am the strongest creature in this manifest world. And the sage looks at it and it says, yes, but only in this world. And so suddenly the mindset approaches to the vastness that there is out there. Eventually, any attempt at, in some sense, knowledge becomes an artistic approach. That means the theoretical physicist, it's like theoretical physics is art. The dude's drawing. The dude's drawing with mathematical language how the world could be present. Okay? It's like whether you're an astrophysicist, whether you are a rapper, it doesn't matter who you are. Really, the mind is at work here. And what the mind is an oscillation between the attributes and the attributeless. And this is very crucial to be aware of. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. There's going to be a part 2 to this. Much blessings and namaste.